All right, Miss Jack, are you ready?
Ready.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's February 21st, 2023, 7 p.m. I'll call this meeting of the Sarpy County Planning Commission to order. Miss Jack, roll call, please.
Dembinski. Here. Cheney.
Here.
Giff.
Here.
Ackley.
Here.
Preston.
Here.
Bernat.
Here.
Weiss.
Here.
Whitfield. Igartner. Korth. Huddleston. 7 present. We have a quorum.
Okay, at this time, please join me in a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, our meeting this evening will be conducted in accordance with the Nebraska Open Meetings Act, a copy of which is next to those doors on the north wall. And at this time, I'd like to introduce our planning staff and legal counsel. Planning staff, we have Jason Kubicek. What is your official title?
Planner.
Planner. We also have Don Simon, Planning Director, Kelly Jack, Planning Coordinator, and Nicole Spitzenberger, Deputy County Attorney. And I believe Jose is here to make sure all the equipment keeps running. Jose Garcia, our Application Support Specialist. So welcome, everybody. For those of you who have not been to a Planning Commission meeting before, the way this works, we call each application. Jason will come up and introduce the application. After that, the applicant has an opportunity to also come up and add any other comments they have. Then we open it up for public hearing. Anybody who has questions on the application, or if you're opposed to the application or in favor of the application, you can testify or ask your questions. We'll have you sign in at the podium to keep a record. And then once the public hearing is closed, the applicant has a chance to come back up and to basically respond to any questions that were raised, and also planning staff, and then we leave it to the commissioners to discuss the application. So at this time, I would ask that everybody check your cell phones and please put those in the silent position. Tonight we have 3 public hearings, and our first public hearing is an application from the Sarpy County and City's Wastewater Agency. They submitted an application for consideration of a rezoning from AG, which is Agricultural Farming District with Highway Corridor Overlay, to RE1, which is Residential Estates 1 District with Highway Corridor Overlay. They also submitted a preliminary plat and a final plat of a subdivision to be known as Lot 1, SCCWWA Lift Station Number 1, being a platting of attractive land located in part of the northeast quarter, the southeast quarter, Section 13, Township 13 North, Range 12 East of the 6th Prime Meridian, Sarpy County, Nebraska. The property is commonly addressed as 14775 South 63rd Street and is generally located northeast of 63rd Street and Platteview Road. Mr. Kubicek.
Actually, after this, well, if you want to do it now, you skipped over the minutes, the approval of the minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been 6 months since we have met. My apologies.
Helping us out.
At this time, unless anybody has any commentary, I would be delighted to have a motion to approve our meeting minutes from August 16th of 2022 from anyone who was actually here for that meeting.
I can't remember.
Well, I was at that meeting.
If you have the minutes, it does show who was present.
Do we have it?
So
Who
as
else
long as
was
we
here?
have a
Okay,
majority
Bill,
vote.
we had Bill, Heather, Doug, myself, Colm, Steve, and Ron. We were all here. So I'd entertain a motion to approve the August 16th, 2022 meeting minutes as drafted, or provide any comments.
I'll move to approve the minutes from August 16, 2022 as drafted.
All second. Motion by Mr. Preston, second by Mr. Ackley. Any comments or discussion? Hearing none, please vote. And for those who weren't at the vote, abstain.
Okay. There we go. All right, we've got Well, we aren't gonna get a quorum, so we're.
No, it'll,
Yeah.
this is fine for the minutes. The majority vote will count. So,
So motion carried.
yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, Mr. Kubitschek, will get me back on track here.
I'm glad Nicole caught that because I was thinking it, but I wasn't sure if I just spaced out or not. But so, okay. Well, 1 second here. It's been a while as well. So good evening. Notice of all the public hearings tonight were published in an area newspaper, and the subject properties were posted with a sign indicating a zoning action was pending. And letters were also sent to property owners within 300 feet of the properties to notify them of the proposed zoning action. So this first property, or the Sarpy County and Cities Wastewater Agency is requesting approval of rezoning, preliminary plat, and final plat for 2 separate properties. I'm going to present them both in tandem here, and then we can vote on them separately and motion separately. But the agency is proposing the construction of a sanitary sewer lift station on each property. The first property is commonly addressed as 14775 South 63rd Street. Yep. And is approximately 1.43 acres. The agency is requesting approval of rezoning from agricultural farming district with highway corridor overlay to residential estates 1 district with highway corridor overlay. Preliminary plat and a final plat of a subdivision to be known as Lot 1 SCC WWA, lift station number 1. This property is within the urban reserve zone as shown on the growth management map of Sarpy County Comprehensive Plan. And I'll just brought up a map here showing where this lift station is in comparison to the agency's growth management area. It's this one. Oh, that's the, nope, it's this one, sorry. So this, the staff supports granting of an exception to the Sarpy County zoning regulation as the proposed lift station meets the utilities and infrastructure's goals stated in the Sarpy County Comprehensive Plan. So with that, staff recommends approval of the change of zone from agricultural to residential estates 1 for a proposed subdivision to be known as Lot 1 SCC WWA lift station number 1, subject to the comments found in this staff report and attachments. Staff recommends approval of the preliminary and final plats of the subdivision to be known as Lot 1 SCC WWA lift station number 1, and granting of an exception to section 32 build through overlay within the Sarpy County zoning regulations, subject to the comments and attachments in the Planning Department recommendation report. Staff makes these recommendations as the proposal is consistent with the Sarpy County Comprehensive Plan and meets the intent of the Sarpy County zoning and subdivision regulations. So the second property is commonly addressed as 10490 Mitchell Road and is approximately 0.79 acres. And that was this property right here. And is outside of the growth management zone. The agency is requesting to approve rezoning from agricultural farming district to single-family residential district, preliminary plat and a final plat of a subdivision to be known as Lot 1 SCC WWA lift station number 2. And so similarly, staff recommends approval of the change of zone from agricultural farming to RS 100 single-family residential for a proposed subdivision to be known as Lot 1 SCC WWA lift station number 2, subject to the comments found in the staff report. Staff also recommends approval of a preliminary and a final plat of the subdivision to be known as Lot 1 SCC WWA lift station number 2, subject to the comments and attachments in the Planning Department recommendation report. Staff also makes these recommendations as the proposal is consistent with the Sarpy County Comprehensive Plan and meets the intent of the Sarpy County zoning and subdivision regulations. And if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, Jeff Thompson with the agency will come up and say a few things about this application as well.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kubitschek. Mr. Thompson, you want to come up and add some color on one or both applications? We'll take them one at a time for purposes of the public hearing and voting, but
Sure. And I'll speak to both if that's acceptable to you. They kind of fall together as part of the overall project anyway for Phase 1A. Jason had asked that maybe I just start with, Jeff Thompson, Sarpy County Sewer Agency, 1210 Golden Gate Drive, right here in this building. Jason had asked that maybe I just kind of give a high-level overview of the project and the progress. If you've been out and about in Sarpy County, you've probably seen a lot of pipe going in along Platteview Road, or at least strung out along Platteview Road, and a lot of that going through the city of Springfield as well. So I pulled together just a real quick PowerPoint slide presentation just to kind of give you a little bit of background of some things that have changed here recently, and some that you're probably aware of, some you may not be aware of, but I'll just go ahead and get this started. So the current overall master plan, as it's shown here, I know it's a lot of busy line work, but one thing to note is that we did extend the agency growth boundary to the city of Bellevue. There's approximately 4,000 acres that the city of Bellevue asked that we include in the agency boundary. Previously, the boundary, let's see, do I have, oh, good. Previously, the boundary stopped right around 42nd Street and didn't extend any further east than that for service into Bellevue. But through an interlocal agreement with the city of Bellevue, we added that additional 4,000 acres. One thing that they'd asked is that we upsize the pipe, and they bore the cost of that upsizing as well. So just kind of falls in line, I think, with your last planning agenda meeting where you guys had adopted an amendment to some future land use mapping for changes to the overall future land use in Sarpy County as well. This map Jason had showed as well. Getting rid of all that kind of busy line work to kind of just drill down and explain kind of what we're doing with this first phase of the project. We're calling this Phase 1A. Basically extending from the intersection of Fairview Road and Highway 50 south to the wastewater treatment plant facility in Springfield. And then from Springfield, we're building force mains that will pump that sewage all the way across Sarpy County to basically Highway 34 and Harlan Lewis Road, where we tie into the existing outfall sewer that feeds the Omaha treatment plant at that particular location. And then there's one additional little stub here that feeds up Zweibel Creek into the Papillion growth management area. There's a development that's currently being platted in that area, and the agency partners agreed that it made good sense to extend that line up into that area, given its close proximity and continuity and continuousness with the city of Papillion. So just gives you kind of a high-level outline of the Phase 1A infrastructure. We've got 2 gravity lines, the one here on the west side, the one here on the east side, and then the little, I guess what represent whistles or look like whistles are actually lift station locations that will then force or push that by pumps through the force main system. Just to give you a bit of a sequencing of operations breakdown of how this project's being constructed. Right now, the bullet number 1 here on the west side of the project. Where's my mouse? The number 1 on the west side of the project is the Springfield Creek Interceptor and Cold Water Blowdown line. That line is actually 2 lines. One is a traditional sanitary sewer waste line. The other is a cold water blowdown line, which services the effluent discharge from the data centers to allow them to offshoot their hot water from their cooling systems inside those data centers. That ultimately, the cold water blowdown line ultimately cools down through that line. We have an equalization basin, basically just a large tank, earthen tank more or less, down at the wastewater treatment plant in Springfield that holds that water if it is still too hot to discharge to the creek, but ultimately that water just discharges to the creek, the Springfield Creek, and then ultimately the Platte River. Bullets number 2, those are the 3 lift stations that we have. We have one at the City of Springfield's wastewater treatment plant. We have one at Mitchell Road. And then we also have one at the Zweibel Creek lift station area around 63rd and Platteview. Zweibel Creek and the Mitchell Road station are the 2 that we've applied for here today. And we'll get into a little bit more detail on that here in a bit. Leg 3 again is the Zweibel Creek Subbasin 3, and then basically item 4 is the 17 miles of force main that runs from the City of Springfield's wastewater treatment plant all the way to the Interceptor sewer tie-in at Harlan Lewis and Highway 34. So pictures kind of say 1,000 words, just to kind of give you some overview. This is a photograph, drone footage that we've had taken in the City of Springfield. It's just north of Main Street looking south. The fairgrounds is kind of in the background that you can see there. Everything to date from Fairview and Highway 50 all the way to this location has been installed and tested, and it has turned out fairly well. As we move south, this is south of the buildings in the fairground. The construction here isn't necessarily complete. They have some of the line work in, but they're working from the wastewater treatment plant facility north to try to make a connection where 2 crews will tie in at roughly this location here at the tractor pull area at the Sarpy County Fairgrounds. This is at Flug Road, looking south towards the wastewater treatment plant facility. And then these photos here are just as you work your way south towards the wastewater treatment plant facility in the City of Springfield. The tub or tank, the earthen tank that I talked about a little bit ago is that big bowl or dish shape kind of up. I don't know.
Oh, there it goes.
This area right here is that equalization basin. It's roughly 8 to 10 feet deep, and that will hold that cold water discharge before it ultimately, the cold water blowdown line discharge until it cools enough that we can actually discharge it to the creek. Moving on from segment 1, looking at Zweibel Creek subbasin there, and then the lift station property. What you see here on the right-hand side of the page here is the actual lift station site that this application is referencing. The wet well has been cast in place, and several of the manholes, vaults, and meter structures have been installed as well. Just kind of rotating around the site a little bit to give you some perspective of the size and scope of the project when we get the site plan references a little bit later here. But this just kind of rotates you around from south to north of the lift station site. And then if we start kind of chasing the alignment from there, this is basically sitting right over the top of the wet well at the lift station, looking straight north, due north, 63rd Street's on the left-hand side of the page. We're moving north and then pointing straight west towards an alignment change that once we get across the creek, we start heading due north again, and then continue that gravity line all the way up that watershed parallel to the existing creek line that runs through there. Most of the sewer line from basically this driveway right here all the way up to 72nd Street is installed. It's been tested and it has passed the testing. And they're working back, 2 crews, one working south, one working north and west to meet up and kind of conjoin there. Moving on to, segment 3 and 4. The eastern portion of the project is what we're calling the Zweibel Creek, segment 3 and segment 4, trying to get that all complete by the end of 2023 and in service so that the development that's being planned in Papillion would be able to potentially utilize that sooner rather than later. So just some photos going through segment 3. This intersection up here is Highway 34 and Harlan Lewis Road. The Omaha wastewater treatment plant facility is actually located in the background here. West Papio Creek, where we would tie in just on the other side of the creek. What you're seeing here is a lot of dewatering wells that have been installed. This is down in a really low-lying area along the Missouri River. A lot of high groundwater, and that needs to be drawn down in order to expedite construction. This is La Platte Road looking basically straight east. And really what you're seeing here right now, again, is just the installation of some of those dewatering wells. They haven't started the physical pipe construction here. They do have pipes strung out, and they're starting to fuse some of it, but they haven't started the actual digging and installation of that system yet. Highway 75 and Highway 34. So 34 in the background here, 75 going north. You can see all the pipe that they have laid out and strung at basically Pinecrest Drive along 10th Street. Excuse me, that pipe will ultimately extend and be bored under the highway and basically parallel the Platte Road all the way down to Harlan Lewis and then north. But from this location, it heads pretty much due north till we get to, and you can see the amount of pipe that they've got strung out and fused together, and they are digging and installing some of that as they go. But this is the intersection at Hidden Valley or Platteview Road, more or less, and 10th Street, looking straight south. And then this is looking due east on Platteview Road, the intersection of 10th Street and Platteview Road is right here, or Hidden Valley, I guess is what it's technically called. But you can see the pipe and the installation of that pipe basically stopping right here for the time being. They have everything from about 40th Street, 42nd Street installed all the way up to this point currently, and they're continuing to work down 10th Street and then down the Platte. And this just shows some of the pipe that was strung out along the Platteview Road around 42nd Street. So to get into the nuts and bolts of why we're here today, the Sarpy County City's wastewater agency did buy and fee simple title a couple tracts for the lift station locations in order to be diligent and require of ourselves what we would expect of the development community. We approached the planning commission or the planning department rather, to plat this property, change the zone in accordance with the comprehensive plan, and follow all the rules and regulations, pay all the ASIP fees and all the fees associated with that. So this is the location at Zweibel Creek, the 63rd and Platteview Road location. This is just a small example of the site plan. That large wet well that you've seen, that concrete structure is actually that structure right there. A couple of the vaults that you've seen going in with the base pad is the valve vault right here, and then a metering vault at this location. We've got a collection manhole, metering manhole, and then a distribution manhole at this location. And then obviously because of the type of use and the regulations, landscaping was required. So I just want to demonstrate here that we're providing the adequate, or what I believe to be adequate landscaping per the zoning regulations of the planning department. Everybody always asks, what are we going to see out here? What you're seeing right now, obviously, is exposed concrete foundations of the wet wells, but that will all be underground. It's at some point once they get things backfilled. The structure here is the wet well below grade. The manholes are all below grade. The valve vault's below grade, as well as the distribution manhole. But there will be an electrical building. If I go back to this page here, there's an electrical building that sits right here, and then there's a generator with an attenuation structure around it at this location right here for emergency purposes only. That is basically the footprint of the electrical building. It's all prefabricated in a controlled environment, fully tested. The electronics and electrical systems controls are all fully tested in a controlled environment before they send it out to the site. And then once it hits the site, the contractor is responsible for building a foundation and then setting that with a crane system, and then tying the foundation to the building itself. Just to give you an idea of what the buildings look like, this is a cut sheet from the manufacturer of the company that we procured the buildings from. And then here is just kind of the palette of the color selections that we made with the building. Originally, we'd planned on trying to do the Summit palette, but apparently there was some problems with supply chain in getting those particular materials. So we'll have more of a gray brick facade, similar to that previous picture that you've seen there, with the black doors and a darker, I think that's maroon roof. So I guess with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions as it relates to this first plat application.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. I guess why don't we go ahead and open this first application up for public hearing. Anyone here this evening have questions on this application or comments in favor or opposed? You can come forward and state your name for the record. Going once, going twice, they're just here to learn, okay? I hereby close the public hearing. What are the wishes of the commission? We'll basically have three different motions we'll need for this application, one for the rezoning, one for the preliminary plat, one for the final plat. Again, if there's no discussion, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion then. I'd like to recommend approval, change the zoning from AG agricultural to RE1 residential estate 1 for proposed subdivision to be known as Lot 1, SCC WWA Lift Station Number 1, subject to the comments found in the staff report. Make the recommendation as the proposal is consistent with the Sarpy County Comp Plan and complies with the requirements of the Sarpy County zoning regulations.
Second, Preston.
Motion by Mr. Gift, second by Mr. Preston. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, please vote.
Seven yeas, motion carries.
You jump in.
I'd entertain a motion for the preliminary plat.
I'll make a motion to recommend approval of a preliminary plat of the subdivision to be known as Lot 1, SCC WWA Lift Station Number 1, subject to the comments and attachments in the Planning Department recommendation report and granting of the exception to Section 32 build-through overlay with the Sarpy County zoning regulations. I make this recommendation as the proposal is consistent with the Sarpy County Comp Plan and meets the intent of the Sarpy County zoning and subdivision regulations.
Second, Preston.
Okay, motion by Gift, second by Preston. Any discussion or comments? Hearing none, please vote.
Seven yeas, motion carries.
I'd like to make a recommendation for approval of a final plat of the subdivision to be known as Lot 1, SCC WWA Lift Station Number 1, and granting of an exception to Section 32 build-through overlay within the Sarpy County zoning regulations, subject to comments and attachments in the Planning Department recommendation report. And I make this recommendation as the proposal is consistent with the Sarpy County Comp Plan and meets the intent of the Sarpy County zoning and subdivision regulations.
Second, Preston.
Motion by Mr. Gift, second by Mr. Preston. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, please vote.
Seven yeas, motion carries.
Okay, do we have a date that those go to the board?
They'll go as quickly as we can get them on. I think it'll be about 3 weeks at the board meeting.
Okay. At this time, just for public record here, I would like to open up the second public hearing. This is for the Sarpy County and City's Wastewater Agency's application regarding a rezoning from Ag, Agricultural Farming District, to RS 100, Single Family Residential District, also a preliminary plat and a final plat of a subdivision to be known as Lot 1, SCC WWA Lift Station Number 2, being a platting of attractive land located in part of the northeast quarter of the southwest quarter of Section 21, Township 13 North, Range 12 east of the 6 Prime Meridian, Sarpy County, Nebraska. Property is commonly addressed as 10490 Mitchell Road and is generally located north of Mitchell Road between 99th and 108th Street. Mr. Kubitschek already provided his comments on this. Mr. Thompson, would you like to add any additional color on this application?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman Ackley, Planning Commission members. Jeff Thompson again, Sarpy County and City's wastewater agency project engineer, 1210 Golden Gate Drive. This application is similar to the previous application that you voted on, just a slightly different location. This lift station is located on Mitchell Road, roughly between 99th and 108th Street. It's kind of a general reference of location. I'll just kind of give you, there we go. Frame of reference, the lot right here, the tax lot that was parceled out, you had 108th Street here on the west side, 99th Street on the south side, or excuse me, east side. Very similar layout to what you've seen before, a lot of the same building materials, well, exactly the same building materials as I showed in the previous pallets and building footprints, just a little bit different configuration of the property there. This site is not currently under construction. We're still working through a water infrastructure loan with the federal government to be able to start construction on this site. So we're trying to be ahead of the ball on this one here a little bit. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Thompson. At this time, we'll open this matter for public hearing. Anyone here have questions on this application, here to testify in favor of or opposed to? Now would be the time to come forward. Excuse me. Seeing no one, I hereby close the public hearing. What are the wishes of the commission? And we would also have 3 different votes we would make on this, one for rezoning, one for preliminary plat, one for final plat.
I would move to recommend approval of the change of zone from AG Agricultural Farming District to RS 100 Single Family Residential District for a proposed subdivision to be known as Lot 1, SCC WWA Lift Station Number 2, subject to the comments found in the staff report and the attachments, and I make this recommendation as the proposal is consistent with the Sarpy County Comprehensive Plan and complies with the requirements of the Sarpy County zoning regulations.
I will second.
Motion by Mr. Preston, second by Ms. Cheney. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, please vote.
Seven yeas, motion carried.
You did so well that first time. Would you like to?
And then I would move to recommend approval of the preliminary plat of the subdivision to be known as Lot 1, SCC WWA Lift Station Number 2, subject to the comments and attachments in the Planning Department recommendation report. And I make this recommendation as the proposal is consistent with the Sarpy County Comprehensive Plan and meets the intent of the Sarpy County zoning and subdivision regulations.
I will second.
Motion by Preston, second by Cheney. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, please vote.
Seven yeas, motion carries.
I will move to recommend approval of the final plat of the subdivision to be known as Lot 1, SCC WWA Lift Station Number 2, subject to the comments and attachments in the Planning Department recommendation report, and I make this recommendation as the proposal is consistent with the Sarpy County Comprehensive Plan and meets the intent of the Sarpy County zoning and subdivision regulations.
I will second.
Motion by Mr. Preston, second by Ms. Cheney. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, please vote.
Seven yeas, motion carries.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Okay, our third public hearing this evening is an application from Nathan Burbach for BFT Development LLC, and they've submitted an application for consideration of a rezoning from AG, Agricultural Farming District, to AGR, Agricultural Residential District, and RE2, Residential Estates 2 District. Also a preliminary plat and a final plat of a subdivision to be known as BFT Addition, lots 1 through 4, and Outlot A being a replating of part of the southeast quarter of Section 7, Township 12 North, Range 11 East of the 6th Prime Meridian, Sarpy County, Nebraska, generally located northwest of 192nd Street and Sac Road. Mr. Kubitschek.
Thank you, Commissioner Ackley. Nathan Burbach of BFT Development is asking for approval of a rezoning from Ag Farming District to Ag Residential District and Residential Estates 2, and the preliminary and final plats for a subdivision to be known as lots 1 through 4 and Outlot A BFT Addition. The subject property is generally located northwest of 192nd Street and Sac Road, is approximately 24.96 acres in area. The current condition of the site is grassland, wooded, and steep terrain with no current improvements on site. The applicant is also proposing 4 lots that are over 3 acres in size for single-family residential structures. In conformance with Section 3 of the Sarpy County Comprehensive Plan and Section 30 of the Sarpy County zoning regulations, a conservation zone in the form of a dedicated outlot has been set aside to protect environmentally sensitive or critical areas from urban scale development. In accordance with Section 34 of the Sarpy County zoning regulations, a creek setback area will also be formalized with an easement document. And that will need to be filed against the property immediately after the final plat is filed as well. The applicant has submitted a request to allow the use of individual wells and individual septic systems. So staff believes the request for this development is reasonable, and we've also had those in previous developments that have been approved here as well, to have both individual wells and individual septic systems. The applicant has submitted a request to the Planning Commission and County Board to waive Sarpy County Subdivision Regulations, Section 10, which sets a maximum 600 feet cul-de-sac length for the road planned along the west and north property lines. Future developments will be asked to make, with that, future developments will be asked to make connection to this development. So adjacent developments in the future will be asked to make the connection. And staff believes the request is consistent with how other subdivisions in the area have been developed, and therefore the waiver request is acceptable in staff's opinion. All lots will be accessed from Sac Road and will be adjacent to publicly dedicated right-of-way, which is proposed to be along the west and north property lines. Construction and maintenance of the proposed roads within the development will be the full responsibility of the developer and or landowners. So staff recommends approval of change of zoning districts from ag farming to residential estates and agricultural residential for a proposed subdivision to be known as BFT Addition, lots 1 through 4 and Outlot A, subject to the comments found in this staff report and the attachments. The lots will be zoned as follows. Lots 1 through 4 are proposed to be rezoned to RE2, minimum 2 acres, and Outlot A is proposed to be rezoned to AGR, minimum 5 acres. Staff also recommends approval of a preliminary and a final plat of the subdivision to be known as BFT Addition, lots 1 through 4 and Outlot A, subject to the comments and attachments in the Planning Department recommendation report, along with the following, a waiver of the 600 feet cul-de-sac maximum length pursuant to Table 10-1 of the Sarpy County Subdivision Regulations due to the challenging topography and the environmentally sensitive nature of the site. The applicant also shall submit a post-construction stormwater management plan and grading permit for the overall site prior to submittal of the final plat for county board consideration. And I'll just like to point out that the grading permit has been applied for. We'll want to have the final documents approved before we moved into county board. The staff makes these recommendations as the proposal is consistent with the Sarpy County Comprehensive Plan and meets the intent of the Sarpy County zoning and subdivision regulations. Let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
got a quick question. The cul-de-sac length, is the length of the cul-de-sac, what we're talking here, is that all the way, is the cul-de-sac considered to be everything going up the west boundary and then turning back to the east, or is it just from the northwest corner back to the east? What's the cul-de-sac?
Because there's no intersecting street with it, the cul-de-sac would be the entire length of the road.
Okay. So it's all the way from the southwest
Right,
corner?
yeah.
Okay,
From Sac Road.
okay.
And then what were you mentioned a plan for connectivity down the road. Where would that be on that map?
Where would that be? So the most likely spot for connection, and I'll use this aerial. It just depends on what develops, but I'd say the most likely is probably something here to the west or to the northwest to get back to 192nd Street. As you can see on this site, it drops off considerably right along this area, and it's kind of a valley in here. And so it's very difficult to have any kind of road back to Sac Road on the current limits of the property. So it would most likely go to the west, back to Sac Road, or to 192nd Street if that develops in that.
So the intent would be when the surrounding property develops, that would not be along cul-de-sac any longer? It would-
Yes,
It would, okay.
that's, good way to state that, yeah.
One other question, I don't think that's not a half-section line along the west edge of this property, is it? Is this a quarter section line? Where 198th Street is?
Good question. Let me pull up let me pull up the map here. Sorry, 1 second.
This would be the center section line because there's 192nd, there's 204, that's a mile, right?
Yes, yes.
So this is the property right here, and so this is the southern, Sac Road is actually a section line.
Okay, so that 198th is the half-section line, apparently?
Jason, just say yes.
Yes. 198th, okay. You're talking, what would be potentially here?
The west.
No, on the
west
west
edge.
side
west.
of the
Oh, I'm sorry.
plat, yeah,
It's like,
yeah. Okay.
yes, yep, that'd be a half section line because of, that's right here.
Okay.
Since we just had the South Sarpy and Cities Wastewater Agency in on the prior applications, this is also subject to paying fees for that?
No, this is outside of
falls
the
outside
growth management area for the growth management zone for the agency. It's in the conservation development zone for our growth management areas. So that's why you have the 40% outlot for conservation development.
Got it. Thank you.
You had mentioned that some other subdivisions in the area that we've recently given this waiver as far as the well and septic. I guess the one I'm thinking of that we did most recently was over off of Reha Road and Highway 50.
That's when I
But
was.
did we do that there? I thought they had a sewage treatment facility there or also a water system, one of the other. Did they not?
We waived the requirement to have the septic be community, but they chose to do the wells as community. And the reason we didn't do the septic as community was because of the floodplain was a big concern for neighbors. That was a reason that we waived that. And really, this is a requirement of the comprehensive plan, the residential decision matrix. And so it's not actually a regulation. It's more of a guidance from the comprehensive plan. And so it doesn't require a full waiver per se. It's just how we're interpreting using that. And the large reasons for staff to support allowing an individual is because of the sensitive nature of this topography and the soils, tearing into the ground even more with lines for septic or for wells can kind of run counter to preserving that area. And so that's another big reason we would support it.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'll open this application up for public hearing. Or actually, Mr. Burbach or anyone from BFT Development, if you have any further comments you'd like to make at this time before we go to public hearing. Just have you state your name and address for the record.
My name is Terry Morrison. I'm at 3552 Farnham Street. I'm here on behalf of the owner for Earhart Griffin and Associates. I'm the civil engineer. I don't really have anything to add, but I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Morrison. Okay, at this time, we'll open the public hearing. Anybody have questions on this application or comments in favor of or opposed to? Now would be the time to come forward. Going once, going twice. Come on up, sir. We'll have you state your name and address for the record. And
Kevin Gibson, 19804 Sac Road. So I live on, Sac Road is basically my driveway right there.
Jason, can you pull up the other map for the audience and for us on our screens here?
Zoom in here.
Sure.
Try to get you. I might even throw on the.
Okay.
Is that good?
That's, yeah.
And if you've got the mouse there, sir, you can probably move it around and there we go.
So this is our family farm right here.
Okay.
All right, so Sac Road coming in here. I was just a little worried about, that's my only access right there. So Sac Road kind of stops at my property. So coming in and out of there, I was just wondering where the driveway was gonna be and if there's any runoff concerns. And where the houses would be at, I guess,
Okay.
Because it looks like it's gonna run all along my east line. And just a little concerned with that. And with the septic, I didn't know there was gonna be septics and just a little concerned. That's my only way in and out, so.
Well, Mr.
And future
Kubicek,
development, it sounded
Sure.
like they were gonna connect to that road. I didn't, I guess I don't understand that part of it, but
so
a little concerned with that side.
Mr. Kubicek, if you want to come up and maybe show the final plat drawing, kind of shows the road in there and how it connects with the lots and where that would be on the quarter section line.
I don't know if that map. Yeah, this map. So really, the road as built for this development will follow this dashed line. The right-of-way will be dedicated here, but because of the topography, the road itself, it doesn't make a lot of sense to build over, some of the gullies and things that are out there. So it'll follow this dashed line. And in that corner, it'll kind of round out here. And then that will be a portion of the roundabout there. And something to add to that is that all of these roads will be built to county standards. So they'll have to be the correct width and.
There'll be a gravel road or a rock road then?
Yeah.
It'll be paved. Just a little concern with runoff towards my fence when we run cattle out there, and I didn't want to fix any washouts, I just concerned with that side, that was all.
You also asked about this sewer from a topography standpoint. Does this drain east or west
Well,
from where their road would be? I assume
from their
it is.
road, I think the runoff would run to my side on that, if that's what your question was, so. because that's the high point of the road. I'm sure that's why the road's there, or their proposal, but
I think that the septic systems will likely be
in each house then,
on the, they'll be
on the downhill side.
on the downhill side most likely.
And then that low spot right here in the middle, that kind of, I think that got repaired by the county a couple years ago, so. That used to fill up pretty good there and wash out that road, so it's been a couple years that they've had it repaired on Sac Road there. That's my only concern, basically runoff, and so I don't have to do any fence work. And what future developments could be.
Yeah, the future development piece is where Mr. Kubitschek mentioned how this would have connectivity in the future if somebody did in the next section over for adding additional development to tie into the north side there. I guess the
Yes.
same would be
Yeah.
true potentially if you developed your land at some point. Whitetail Lane might go west as well. Probably a long way in the future, but we try to figure out where the connectivity is.
Yeah, and my property over here on their, be on their west side, I'm in a conservation land trust, so I just want to make sure that it stays the way it is, I guess,
Yep.
so I'm in that. So just kind of talking with the land can't really talk for itself, so I was just curious on what was going on, so,
No, appreciate you coming out.
yes, thank you.
You bet.
I was wondering if I can make it.
Come on up, Mr. Morrison, if you want to speak in the mic so we can hear you.
Yeah, if I can find the grading plan, I can actually show where.
I think it's page 5, 4 or 5. Oop, there it was.
Okay, so kind of the plan with the road is there's going to be roadside ditches along both sides of the road to pick up the runoff. The site has a high point here. A little bit of this area does drain west. You can kind of see there's a ridge line here. So from this area, it drains west, but it'll be intercepted by the roadside ditches, which we will route down towards the existing drainage path. Excuse me. So we'll be intercepting runoff with the ditches, so we won't be contributing to runoff onto the adjacent property. And everything where the houses are on the east draining slope. Here's another ridge line. So this area is all draining down towards the drainage channel. So these are just conceptual locations of the houses. Everything's going to be draining east and south, so it won't cause any additional runoff on the adjacent property.
So where that proposed road connects to Sac Road, right at the bottom down there, would there be a culvert or any kind of, how you gonna run the
If it's cutting off drainage, yeah, we'll have to put a culvert through there, but the existing drainage goes down to that ditch and down to that culvert pipe there.
My only next concern is that's my communication line, all my phone lines, and everything are buried on that side too. So
On this
I'm
side.
sure you already know that.
Yeah, there shouldn't be any cutting. Well, if we get into a culvert, we'll have to get that located to make sure that's avoided. I think that was.
And did you mention ditch on both sides of the road? So there's room between the boundary line there yet where the road looks like it's touching on the boundary, that you actually have a ditch there, or the ditch is only on the east side?
There should be a ditch on both sides per the county road cross section.
Yeah, helps to blow that up. Thank you.
You see these little curve backs as the
So
ditch.
can you explain, I mean, we're dedicating right away along the west boundary of the property at 33 feet, but we're not building a road there. The road's not in the right of way, or most of it's not. Is the road a private driveway or is it a dedicated road, or what are we doing here?
So it's going to be a private driveway, excuse me, and there will be an easement, ingress, egress easement across each property dedicated to each of the property owners. Part of the reason, the right-of-way that's being dedicated is really only half of right-of-way. That would be along this section line, when the other side would be developed. The other half of the right-of-way would be put in. But since we only have half the right-of-way, we can't build all of the road.
But Mr. Gibson just told us that's in a conservation easement, so that's never going to get dedicated.
Okay, yes. So for right now, this is providing access to these 4 properties, and this road, though it's partially within right-of-way and partially within private, it is granted egress, ingress to the properties, and so in essence, it is a public road. Correct me if I'm.
Yeah, no, you're stating it correctly. We always require that the right-of-way be dedicated, and regardless of what's happening on the other property, that's always been a requirement that we pull that into this plat and this platting process so that we can have connectivity in the future. Whether or not that ever gets dedicated on that side, I guess we still need that right-of-way potentially. We may end up having to get extra right-of-way eventually. But at this point, that's always been a requirement of platting, is to take that right-of-way on that side per subdivision regulations.
And that easement for the driveways to the public?
It should. We're still working on that easement. That'll be part of the subdivision agreement or the process of reviewing those documents. And my understanding is that it will be a permanent access easement, which would be public potentially. So, do you have any experience with that, Julie, or can you speak to that any further?
Good evening, Julie Ogden, JEO Consulting Group, a consultant for the county. We have done this in other locations where we've asked for a permanent access easement. It is dedicated to all the lots within the development. It doesn't necessarily state it's a public access easement, but generally the people going there probably have business with the people that live there or delivering or things like that. What could happen is when the rest of the properties adjacent do develop, that could be, I don't know if rescinded is the right word, but take it, we would have the other dedication. We would require this developer to coordinate and participate in any future road improvements with adjacent developments to create the full public road on the right of way. This was a balance to help maintain access to these properties and not negatively impact any adjacent properties at this point. And that's why we allowed them to kind of do this little bit of a wiggle in a couple locations. Does that answer you guys' questions?
I
Anything
would
else?
think the easement is probably private just to the lot owners and their invitees as opposed to dedicated to the public, right?
Correct.
And the property owners maintain that road then?
Correct.
But then, so the discussion of connectivity later still concerns me, because if somebody was to connect onto the northwest corner or wherever, with a platted dedicated road, then there's going to be legal issues as to how this road extending to the south is going to be connected to a public road on the northwest corner, because it's on private property and it's a private road.
That's where they got the 33-foot right-of-way though, right?
Which is inadequate because we have a conservation easement on the other side.
Yeah, so if you're looking at the property that's, I'm gonna east and north of this, that right now that's one large parcel. If it were to all develop or develop in phases, they would have access both to Sac Road and 192nd. That would just provide a secondary access out for this property. We would not anticipate those lots coming to the west and south to then have to go back east on Sac Road to get out, because Sac Road doesn't go anywhere else at this point. So really that connectivity that we're talking about is the secondary access for these lots to get out in the future and eliminate the long cul-de-sac. Does that kind of help think of, or understand where we're going with that, Commissioner Giff? Sorry. I always want to put an R in that, I apologize.
I have a question. Okay. So I get that you could require the surrounding properties to lay out the road where you want it as a condition of approving their development. What's the mechanism for having this property owner connect to whatever you have planned in the future?
It'll be within the subdivision agreement that when those properties develop and that additional half width is dedicated, that then the road be placed likely on the property lines and centered in the roadway, and then they would financially contribute the appropriate portion to that road construction.
And just to add to that, we do have the subdivision agreement draft, and so we're making comments to that. After this, that's kind of the next step after approval here. If that happens, that would be the next piece to go into the subdivision agreement and make edits and that sort of thing.
Does the easement then address the kind of the cost share and maintenance and who's responsible on the roadway for the 4 lots? So again, anybody buying in knows here's my responsibility for pro rata share, or who's going to repair it and send me a bill?
I think that would be up to the developers. I don't think that will go into any easement, the cost share of any sort. But I do believe that, if they want to do a sort of HOA or some sort of group like that, they can choose to do that. But it's my understanding these potential lot owners are connected in part. I hate to say exactly what it is because I don't know, but they're connected, and there's only 4 of them, so I think 3 to 4 of them actually. So I don't think.
Yeah, and they would have the maintenance as well on that outlot. It's the conservation easement, as well as we've got the permanent easement for the drainage way, as it's required for the conditions as well.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ogden. Any other questions or comments on this application?
Yeah, I've got something else I want to talk about with regard to the waiver for the individual septic and well. I have concerns. I mean, our regulations are set saying that you're supposed to have with 3 to 5 acre lots, you're supposed to have either water or community sewer, community water or sewer. And we're not doing that here. And I don't like to set a precedence. I know there's other developments that are occurring in that area, and it's going to come up again. And I'm sure that, if somebody sees that we're doing it here, they're going to ask that we do it on the next one. So I ran some numbers on this today, and I wondered if there was any consideration given to the fact that I understand that the well and septic is probably necessary up here because of the topography and the conservation area or whatnot. But with well and septic, you need to have a minimum of 5 acres. Okay, so why couldn't we just have 3 5-acre lots up here instead of the 4 3-acre lots that we got over here? I did the numbers on this, and it looked like with the 40% that's put aside, that we end up with 2 100 short on the 40%, and the rest of the 3-acre lots are all 5-acre lots, and they comply with individual well and septic as far as size.
So you're proposing to change and add additional?
No, I'm not proposing anybody change. Was that considered? I mean, that's an alternative as opposed to setting a precedence with accepting waivers to say, hey, that's what the rules say. You can build here, but you can only fit 3 lots in here, not 4.
Right. I guess it's again, you call it a regulation. It's part of this comprehensive plan, so it's not necessarily a regulation. But the interpretation here is that the requirement for that is, and I didn't mention this earlier, I meant to say it again, but is that the reason for connection, like a community septic system, is to make it easier to connect to later at a time when the utility will come out there. But this isn't planned for wastewater in the future because it's in the conservation development zone. So that reason for connecting to community septic is null. And so that, along with the environmental concerns with digging additional lines and from house to house with all that topography and sensitive soils. A goal within the comprehensive plan is to conserve that area and those sensitive soils. And so we felt like it was meeting that goal, and it's acceptable to override the residential decision matrix if it's meeting another goal.
I understand that part of the goal, but I still don't understand the part that if we have to have, and I understand, we want to have individual wells and individual septics for each of the homes. If, according to the development matrix, if the lots were 5 to 10 acre lots that would meet the requirements of the matrix with individual well and septic, and to do that, the lots would have to be 5 acres, and instead of having 4 lots, you would have 3, and then the other 40% would be the build-through zone. It could be done, and it could meet the requirements of the matrix, but it would only have 3 lots.
Yeah. The proposal that came to us was 4 lots, and we've got the outlot that was required along with it, and so we worked with the developer to understand what their needs were, and we felt like this was acceptable to interpret the goal over the residential decision matrix, the strict adherence to the residential decision matrix.
I'm just concerned about setting precedents, so. We have the matrix, and if we're not going to follow it, then we need to change the matrix.
I don't disagree with that, actually. And part of, we had a development in the past with the River Ranches was that development. And, if it's in the conservation zone, maybe it doesn't need to have the community requirements along with it. But that's something we haven't proposed at this point, but it was a thought. So that would require a comprehensive plan amendment, a comprehensive, plan amendment.
Right. Thank you.
Again, to Mr. Gift's question for future precedent, part of the analysis here is the topography and the soils, right? So it's not automatic that we would do a waiver just because you fall outside of the South Sarpy and Cities Wastewater Agency. There would also be other extenuating circumstances.
Yeah. And we've got other developments that are currently with us that we are requiring the community aspect of it. So that don't have the sensitive soils, don't have the topography. And so.
Does that give you some comfort, Mr. Gift?
I heard what I could, I guess.
Could you remind us, the regulatory minimum is 3, right? For individual well and septic, that's your floor?
The regulatory minimum for septic, just individual septic on a lot is 3 acres. Is that what you're stating?
So I understand your decision matrix elevates the minimum and you can bring it down, but the floor is 3, right?
Yeah, and you're talking about the residential decision matrix, not like septic regulations of.
You can't go lower than 3, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't have it right in front of me at this point, but the residential decision matrix does state what the requirements are.
Yep.
Sorry, didn't answer that question very well.
Anybody else from the public? I don't think I ever closed the public hearing. Anybody else here from the public have questions, comments on this application? I hereby close the public hearing. What are the wishes of the commission? Again, we would have 3 separate items we're voting on this evening. One is rezoning, second preliminary plat, and third a final plat. And you'll also notice the language in the staff's report gives you the waivers or the additional requirements for the PCSMP that would be required as part of any motions. If there's no further questions or discussion, I'd entertain a motion.
Yes, I'll make a motion for approval of the change of zone from AG agricultural to RE2 residential estates 2 and AGR agricultural residential for a proposed subdivision to be known as BFT Addition, lots 1 through 4, on the Outlot A, subject to the comments found in the staff report and attachments. The lots will be zoned as follows. Lots 1 through 4 proposed to be rezoned to RE2, minimum 2 acres. Outlot A proposed to be rezoned to AGR, minimum 5 acres. Staff makes this recommendation to the proposal is consistent with the Sarpy County Comprehensive Plan and complies with the requirements of the Sarpy County zoning regulations.
Motion by Mr. Brethnock. Do we have a second?
Second, Weiss.
Second by Mr. Weiss. Thank you. Any further discussion or questions? Otherwise, please vote on the rezoning application.
Six yeas. 1 against, that's gift, motion carries.
Thank you. I'd entertain a motion for preliminary plat.
I'll make a motion for approval of the preliminary plat of the subdivision to be known as BFT Addition, lots 1 through 4, and Outlot A, subject to the comments and attachments in the Planning Department recommendation report, along with the following: waiver of the 600-foot cul-de-sac maximum length pursuant to Table 10-1 of the Sarpy County subdivision regulations due to the challenging topography and environmentally sensitive nature of the site. The applicant shall submit a post-construction stormwater management plan, PCSMP, and grading permit to the overall site prior to the submittal of final plat for the county board consideration. Staff makes this recommendation as the proposal is consistent with Sarpy County Comprehensive Plan and meets the intent of the Sarpy County zoning and subdivision regulations.
Motion by Mr. Brethnock. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Weiss. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, please vote.
Yea, 6, 1 against, that's gift, motion carries.
Mr. Brethnock, you're on a roll.
Indeed. I make a motion for approval of the final plat of the subdivision to be known as BFT Addition, lots 1 through 4 on Outlot A, subject to the comments and attachments in the Planning Department recommendation report. A waiver of the 600-foot cul-de-sac maximum length in the Table 10-1 of the Sarpy County subdivision regulations due to the challenging topography and environmentally sensitive nature on the site. The applicant shall submit a post-construction stormwater management plan, PCSMP, and the grading permit to the overall site prior to the submittal of the final plat for county board consideration. Staff makes this recommendation as the proposal is consistent with the Sarpy County Comprehensive Plan and meets the intent of Sarpy County zoning and subdivision regulations.
Motion by Mr. Brethnock. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Weiss. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, please vote.
Yea, 6, 1 against, gift, motion carries.
Okay. Thanks to the applicant, Mr. Gibson, for your questions this evening. At this time, Mr. Kubitschek, it looks like we get to have a coin flipping for a recommendation on a member of this commission to go to the Board of Adjustment.
Well, I'll simplify that. We've asked Deanna if she would like to continue, and she accepted. So that is the route I believe we'll go.
Do you need a formal vote on that from the commission?
I don't believe so unless, okay. No, we do not.
Okay. All right. Commissioners' reports. Anybody have anything they'd like to talk about from the last 6 months? No, Colin, we don't want to hear about your Christmas. All right, Mr. Kubitschek, how about planning department report?
Yeah, so in the time since we last met, which is quite a bit of time, I'll just go through the list of things that have been approved by the county board. Big Sky Acres rezoning and plating was approved. Comp plan amendments, the update the future land use and growth management maps were approved, and that's kind of what Jeff had referred to in his presentation, that there were the updates to the growth management zones and in the sewer agency, so we updated ours to match, which is what we have agreed to do. And also the Gretna, the changes Gretna had made over the past couple of years with annexation and jurisdiction, that was included in those comp plan amendments. Text amendments to allow ground-mounted solar and ag development were approved. Reineke Acres rezoning and plating was also approved. An interlocal cooperation agreement with the City of Springfield to provide building plan review and inspection services through the end of this year, and then automatic renewal for another year was approved as well. And that's really just another continuation of what we have already been doing with Springfield. And so if you have questions, I'm sure Don will be able to answer, but so those are the things that have happened since August through the planning department. The only other things that I wanted to mention were NPZA conference is coming up. If you didn't get my email, let me know. And I've actually got some forms here and even agenda to pick up if you want to see what it is. But basically, we pay for registration for all of you and hotel stay if necessary as well. But it's a 3-day conference, a 2.5-day conference, March 8th, 9th, and 10th. And it's a great conference. Totally recommend it with your roles as planning commissioners. And my role as a planner. Very good conference. Also, there's some credits for if you're an attorney or anything like that. You can get credits for continuing education there. At this point, we don't have a March meeting, so we're gonna have another month off, and then we'll see how April goes. At this point, we don't have anything yet, but we'll let you know as that comes. Lastly, just wanted to thank Tom for jumping into the chair role, as our two options ahead of him we're out. So appreciate you jumping in, Tom.
Alphabetically, it worked out. All
Back in the
right.
saddle.
Well, if there's nothing else for the good of the cause, let's call this meeting adjourned as of 8:17 p.m.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.